A desperate wartime gamble forged a legend and accidentally birthed the jet that would rule the skies. The P-51 Mustang didn't just save bombers. It lit the fuse for the XP-86 Sabre, with captured enemy secrets, a daring wing redesign, and a failsafe that turned near disaster into breakthrough. If you've ever wondered how a rushed prop fighter unlocked the jet age, stay with me, because what looked like luck was calculated risk, and it changed aviation forever. In 1940, Britain was running out of time. German bombers owned the skies, and the Royal Air Force was desperate for new fighters. The US had only one option to offer, the Curtiss P-40, but its factory was already overloaded. Enter North American Aviation, a young company barely a decade old. Instead of building someone else's fighter under license, they made a bold, almost reckless promise. Give us 120 days, and we'll design something better. In just 102 days, they delivered the first prototype of what would become the P-51 Mustang. Sleek, agile, and efficient, the Mustang was revolutionary, but it came with one fatal flaw. Its Allison engine gasped for air at high altitudes, leaving it useless in the battles where victory mattered most. The RAF had a plane that looked like the future, but without a solution, it risked being just another failed experiment. The breakthrough didn't come from America. It came from across the Atlantic. Engineers in Britain realized that the Mustang's greatest weakness could be fixed by replacing its Allison engine with the legendary Rolls-Royce Merlin. That single decision turned the P-51 into a different beast entirely. Suddenly, it could climb higher, fly farther, and escort bombers deep into German territory. What once struggled above 15,000 feet now dominated at 30,000. By 1944, the Mustang wasn't just another fighter. It was the guardian of the skies, crippling the Luftwaffe and giving the Allies a decisive edge. But even as the Mustang proved itself, an ominous shadow was already forming. Germany was preparing a weapon so advanced that it threatened to make every piston fighter obsolete overnight. In the summer of 1942, the world saw something terrifying take flight, the Messerschmitt Me-262, the first operational jet fighter. It was a glimpse into the future of air combat, and for Allied pilots, it was a nightmare. The Me-262 was more than 150 miles per hour faster than any Allied piston aircraft. It could climb quicker, strike harder, and vanish before slower fighters had a chance to react. Even the mighty Mustang suddenly looked like yesterday's news. Allied commanders knew the truth. If Germany built enough of these jets, the balance of the war could shift. The skies that the Mustang had just secured could be ripped away in an instant. For North American aviation, this was no longer about improving an engine or tweaking a design. It was about survival in a new age. And that meant one thing. America needed a jet fighter, fast. By late 1944, North American aviation knew the clock was ticking. The jet age had arrived, and anything less than a breakthrough meant extinction. In November, they quietly began design studies for a new fighter, a jet that could finally match, or even beat, the German Me-262. Their first step was cautious: adapt what they already knew. They sketched a fuselage built for a jet engine, but still paired it with the straight wings of the Mustang. The US Navy ordered a version, which would become the XFJ-1 Fury. Soon after, the US Army Air Forces commissioned their own design, the XP-86. On paper, it looked promising. But when the wooden mock-up was completed in 1945, the numbers told a darker story. At just under 600 miles per hour, the XP-86 would actually be slower than its rival, the Republic XP-84 Thunderjet. North Americans' leaders knew the brutal truth. If they stuck with the current design, their new fighter would be obsolete before it ever flew. Something radical had to change. As the Allies swept through Europe in 1945, they uncovered a treasure trove of captured technology, blueprints, test results, and prototypes that revealed just how far German science had gone. Among the discoveries was a set of aerodynamic studies on swept wings, including an experimental aero-wing version of the Me-262. For North American engineers, this was the missing piece. Their straight-wing XP-86 design couldn't outrun the future, but a swept wing could slash drag at near supersonic speeds and unlock performance that piston aeroplanes could only dream of. The catch? Swept wings were untested, unstable at low speeds, and risky enough that the US Air Force hadn't even asked for them. North American chose to gamble anyway. Quietly, and without official approval, they redesigned the XP-86 around the captured German data. It was a daring, almost reckless move, betting the company's future and America's air supremacy on technology pulled from the ruins of the enemy. Swept wings gave the XP-86 the speed it needed, but they came with a deadly flaw. At low speeds, especially during takeoff and landing, the aircraft became unstable, prone to sudden stalls that could send even skilled pilots into the ground. For weeks, engineers wrestled with the problem. Then came the solution: automatic leading-edge slats. Borrowed from German designs, these movable panels along the wing's front edge would extend at low speeds, smoothing airflow and preventing stalls, then snap flush at high speeds to minimize drag. It was a stroke of brilliance. With the slats installed, the XP-86 combined stability with blistering speed. In dives, it could punch past the speed of sound, something no Allied fighter had ever achieved. What began as a desperate patchwork of borrowed ideas and bold risks was finally taking shape as something greater, a jet that could stand at the forefront of a new era in aerial combat. By 1947, the gamble had paid off. On October 1st, the prototype XP-86 lifted into the sky for the first time. Sleek, swept, and armed with innovations pulled from the wreckage of war, it was unlike anything America had ever flown. Soon, it would earn a new name, the F-86 Sabre. And when the Korean War erupted, this fighter would prove itself against the Soviet-built MiG-15. The battles that followed were not just dogfights, they were the world's first true jet versus jet duels. Time and again, the Sabre held its own. It wasn't perfect, but it was fast, agile, and deadly enough to tip the balance. The same company that had once rushed out the Mustang in just 102 days had now delivered the aircraft that defined the dawn of the jet age. From a desperate promise to Britain to a legendary showdown over Korea, the story of the Mustang and the Sabre showed one truth: sometimes the boldest risks rewrite history. What began as a rushed gamble to satisfy Britain's desperate wartime plea became one of the most important technological leaps in aviation history. The P-51 Mustang proved that bold promises and daring innovation could change the outcome of a world war. But its true legacy wasn't just in saving bombers, it was in lighting the path to the jet age. The XP-86 Sabre, born from captured enemy secrets and fearless engineering risks, transformed air combat forever. It turned German data into American dominance, and in the skies over Korea, it proved that the future belonged to jets. History often calls it luck. In truth, it was a chain of relentless decisions, risky gambles, and brilliant problem-solving. And it leaves us with one final lesson. Sometimes desperation doesn't just inspire survival, it sparks revolutions. Because from the Mustang to the Sabre, one impossible promise ended up rewriting the skies of the 20th century.